So how about if I just kind of go really easy because I know this is your first time. Um,
Okay.
and we have our friend Jonathan. He's my really good friend. He's on the call. And
Okay.
what people usually do is I've had less people on the live call, and what they usually do is they watch this like through YouTube. So
Okay.
it's probably just going to be us three on the live call. So it's really easy that way.
Okay.
So how about if I start off and then I'll just kind of give you my how spiritual awakening has kind of affected me and all that kind of stuff. And then you can kind of chime in where you want. Okay.
Okay.
So, uh, when people talk about spiritual awakening, sometimes there's this fluff around it that it's a spiritual awakening and it's so beautiful. And it is because it really opens you up. But part of the problem and the pain is that it opens you up. It's like it's so beautiful. You know what, Jonathan? If you want to chime in too, if you have something that you want to share, I'd love that too.
I can share. Hi, Brianna.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
Good. I was going to talk a little bit. You asked me if I talk about my spiritual awakening. I'll say it and I'll give you the brief minute version.
Okay.
So when I was in about 18 years old, 19, I was in a really bad car accident. And as the car was turning over and my head was pushing against the roof, I heard a voice say, "You can tighten up and break every bone in your body or relax and walk away." And the car righted itself and I was covered head to toe with glass. And I didn't have a scratch on me. I was able to get out of the car and it was amazing. And after that, I started wanting to understand what happened because I had a lot of experiences as a kid I never understood, seeing ghosts, hearing voices, things like that. And so I started reading different books. I went to the Bodhi Tree, which was in Los Angeles, and it was a metaphysical bookstore. And I started reading books, and then eventually started taking classes and learning about channeling and healing. And that was my beginning.
Mhm. Wow.
And the reason I'm on the call today is I love meeting my good friends' kids because when they talk about them, it puts a face and a personality and who that being is when they talk about them.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Thank you,
nice to meet
Jonathan. Yeah. Thank you.
That was a really, really awesome story. How old did you say you were when you got in the car accident?
you. About 19, 18 or 19, I think 19.
Okay. And
Wow.
it kind of just started from then.
Yes. Which started when I
Was
was
it
younger, but I didn't understand the experiences I was having as a little kid.
right?
I didn't even think about it because it just didn't dawn on me.
Mhm.
Right.
Some people have that. They had like very early in their childhood, they know these things and they have these experiences. And I guess I just kind of blocked that out for a long time. And it wasn't until I was 40 and I started to have these experiences, or maybe I was paying attention to the experiences, but it really like cracked me open. And I was at the time I was just, trying to come out of depression and I was just distracting myself in whatever way I could. But the more that I started to look into this about, I had lots of questions. What is God? How far does the universe go? And at the end of that, what's on the other side of that? If I'm made up of energy and water and empty space, how does my body keep its form together? I had lots of questions. Why do I have these thoughts? Why do I have things that piss me off? And it just I had so many questions, and it just caused me to keep asking and keep asking. But it's like the things that I held on to, my mind held on to for so long, that I'm this person and I have these beliefs. Every once in a while, the rug would be pulled out from under me, and what I knew to be true wasn't true. And it can be a very unsettling place to be. And you find yourself, well, at least for me, in relationship, in my job, friendships. I had to question everything. And I'd be down at the beach playing beach volleyball and realize that I can't hang out with these people anymore because I was not feeling supported in the depths of where I wanted to go. And we were just talking about normal stuff, and I couldn't have the normal conversations anymore. Like talking about your favorite wine or, travel or the president and stuff. Like I was not interested in all that. I really had some in-depth questions that I needed to talk to someone. But if I felt in any way that I wasn't supported, like they might laugh at me or, think I'm a kook or something, I just kept my mouth shut. But eventually when I started to attract people. I started to go to different workshops or different talks. I remember there's this woman named Anelia Benz, and her thing was that her whole purpose here on planet Earth is to help people awaken, to help raise the consciousness of the planet. And she said, I've got a family and I've got kids and all that, but my real purpose is to go into these other realms and help humanity by shifting different frequencies. And I was like, wow, I want to know more about that. But just by going to that talk, I started to engage with other people and like, oh my God, it was so normal to have a conversation about something so wild as consciousness and spirit and soul and energy and all these things. So it was really satisfying something in me. And at the same time, the old stuff, the old triggers would just show up so hard and so painful. And I remember I was in a relationship with someone who I had known in high school, and I was very insecure back then. And I was like a puppy dog. And I remember driving out to go see her and experiencing some real insecurities and heartache. And I left in a huff and I called her up and I was so angry, so upset. And I said, I can't believe you treated me this way. And she says, Daniel, I never asked you to come. And that was like the beginning of me looking at myself going, holy crap, I don't believe, how did this happen? And between stuff like that would just in my face, you need to look at your stuff. You need to find out what's going on. And then I started living in this like spiritual community. And I had to deal with this idea that people thought that I was becoming spiritual and didn't believe in God anymore. When in reality, I wanted to have a relationship with God. I wanted to have a deeper understanding of God with outside of the you better not piss him off kind of thing. I really wanted to know the highest truth of what we were talking about. And so actually, I started to engage in that idea, that concept, that conversation in a deeper way than I ever have. And I like when people would ask me, do you believe in God? I would say, I don't believe in God. I feel like I know God a lot more than I ever have. And that kind of summed it up. So, Briana, you're going through, a big shift in your life, and you and I have gotten back into communication, which is so awesome. And at the same time, things are shifting for you and wondering what the next thing is for you. How do you balance that out with like regular life and having this spiritual awakening happening?
Well, I feel like that's where I'm having the most issue with, or the hardest time with, because I feel like it's a very lonely journey. Like you get really excited at first because mine started, well, growing up, I think my mom was very, into church and God. And when my parents got divorced, my dad was on this new journey, and I mostly stayed with my mom, and I had, these certain feelings that, my dad left us and my mom was so hurt. And so I kind of gravitated to my mom because I felt like I needed to be there for her. And so when I'd go see my dad, I'd come back and tell my mom about, how he'd get me these little worry dolls. I remember when I was like, I think 12, uh, you had bought me these little worry dolls that you put under your pillow and they're supposed to take your worries away. And I was all excited and I came home and I was putting them under my pillow and my mom's like, "What is that? You need to take those away. And I don't know why your dad's giving you those. Those are voodoo dolls and all this stuff." So I had a very, when you're growing up and things are like pounded into your head of one way, what, God is supposed to be, what life is supposed to be. You go to church, you go to school, you get an education, you find a nice husband. It's like, as a woman, you're supposed to have kids and be a good wife. And so all my life, I feel like that's what I was trying to chase. And after, like, I started feeling unhappy. Like, this is it. This doesn't feel, it just feels, it didn't make me happy. And, like I was telling my dad, one day I had moved into this new apartment and I met a, my new neighbor, and she did hair or something like that. I can't remember. But I went inside her apartment and she did my hair and she started talking about like tarot cards and astrology, and she knew a lot about it, and it was so interesting to me, and it was like my mind just bursted from one day to the next. And I didn't understand what was going on. I tried to talk to my partner about it, and he grew up with God and all that stuff, but he didn't put me down about it or anything like that, but he was like, "Oh, it's a phase you're going through. It's fine. This is a phase." Like, I was buying books on paganism and witchcraft and astrology and tarot cards and crystals and all this stuff. And I'd go and get sage, and I taught Ava how to sage the house, and we'd light candles. And my daughter is Ava. She's 9. She was all into it. And we would have pictures. Me and my neighbor built this huge altar with like 12 steps out of wood, and we put candles on it. And the whole neighborhood came and put pictures of people that had passed away. And we put, like their favorite food and water and rocks, like the earth and the water and salt. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just was doing it. And I feel like that has been my whole journey. Like, it's just something that has been pulling me. Like, I don't even feel like I'm doing it. I'm just getting pulled in that direction and I can't stop thinking about it. And it's all I'm interested in. But it everybody makes it out to be, like you said, like this beautiful journey. And it is awesome. But at the same time, I feel like the universe or God brought me to my dad because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand. And what a coincidence at this part of my life that, me and my dad start talking again. or we started talking again, you know? So it's just crazy how life works.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brianna. Hey, Jonathan, do you feel like I get this strong feeling that like Brianna is like a medicine woman in some other life, like she's
What I was sensing is that this pull is because do you believe in past lives, Brianna?
I'm starting to learn about them. I've been doing research and stuff like that, but I haven't like dived deep into it.
Okay, it's not so much if we believe in them, but what I'm sensing is that you've had a lot of this know-how in previous lifetimes. It's basically we have a soul, and that soul goes on. You're not in the same body, and and what I feel is that you're reawakening these old memories from the lifetimes.
yeah,
And thank you for sharing too. That was a
yeah,
beautiful way you got into it.
yeah. I have
Yeah.
I
a really good movie that you might really like, Brianna. It's called Bless Me Ultima, and it's this
okay.
Bless Me Ultima is about this little boy that his grandmother is a what's called a curandero. She's a medicine woman, and she's kind of off to the side in her little community, but she's the healer in the community, and the little boy is learning from his grandmother how to be a healer. Really touching story, really beautiful.
That sounds awesome. I would think it would be so cool to go visit, like, deep in the mountains in Mexico, and, the women that they get herbs and plants and they use that as, their medicine. And I was doing a lot of research on that too, because that interested me. And, but you know what I wanted to say really quick too is that um, I I feel like growing up, or like our minds, or my mind was like blocked, or like foggy, like I didn't know anything, or any of the stuff that I'm knowing now. And I don't know if it's from, trauma or things that have happened in my life, or blocking it out, or things like that. But I remember maybe it even started earlier than that girl, that, my neighbor, because like I was telling you, when I was little and I used to go visit my dad, and I remember um, we would stay in the tent in the backyard, or in the little studio that he had. And I was really nervous about being in a new place and everything. And he would do these guided meditations. And I don't even know if you really knew what you were doing, or what, but he would take me on these journeys into the woods, going into the trees. And I remembered that, but I forgot about it for many, many years, until I don't even know if I looked something up or how I started doing it, but every night I have to do those guided meditations. I look it up on YouTube, and I've been trying to find, like astral projecting, and or different guided meditations, and it relaxes me.
Hmm.
And I feel like there's a part of us that was from before, that certain things we forget in this life, and little things like reawaken it or something. I don't know.
I,
I just
I totally agree. I would say, like, how can I not? How, yeah, it's a weird. It's almost like that switch hasn't been turned on, and or like I've been reprogrammed for decades, and if there's this like latent knowing, wisdom, knowledge inside of me, and I'm just like going through life, going through life, going through life, and all of a sudden something happens, and then that switch, for me, it wasn't like flipped on, it was just slowly turned on. And then it was kind of like if like spirit was saying, keep coming, Daniel, keep coming, you're doing great, you're already a master, you're already a medicine man. Just I just want to remind you, but we just need to like take this slowly. And that's kind of how I felt. Like it just felt so natural, and I didn't have to really, like, all the stuff that I do now has just been very easy to come back into, very hard to stay in my old life, but really easy to come into this. And then the people that I would attract, different shaman and mystics and indigenous people, were just, it was so easy. And I think that's like, it's, you're coming back to the train track, you're coming back to the right track.
But it's almost as if too, I feel like sometimes I'm like, what is wrong with me? Because the conversations that I've had with people, or like you said, normal conversations, like sometimes I just get irritated. Like I don't really want to talk about this, or things that people are watching around me. I'm like, I don't really want to be around this. Like, and it just feels like everything I knew before doesn't appeal to me anymore. And it's very hard because even like it's like you lose so many people over it. And I guess I just don't know how to navigate that part. It's like, but it's hard because it's like you're a different person. You're not that same person anymore.
Yeah. I guess what I want to say about that is, the best thing that I could do is to keep following my heart. I know that sounds really like maybe oversimplistic, but like when I was in the things that I really wanted to do, these new things that were kind of weird before, but now started to be more normal, like going out on a hillside and going to go drumming, meditating, you know, exploring different plants and animals and find out more about all that stuff. I allowed myself just to be excited about it. And I just kept on following that. And then I had to like do the regular job, or, you have to be part of society in some ways, and just
Yeah.
keep on focusing on the things that really excited me. And then what happens, it started to balance out more, so that all you're doing is all this medicine work, or all this things that you're really excited about, and very little of the old stuff that you don't really resonate with anymore. It's kind of like the universe says, you just show me what you're excited about and I'll keep giving that to you. But I need to
Yeah.
find out what it was that I was excited about.
One of the things I wanted to say, Brianna, was when you were talking, it sounds like you're discovering what discernment is, and
Yeah, good
to
word.
to really follow what excites you. And if you choose not to be around certain people because of their beliefs or what they do, that's part of what boundaries is about. You're going to keep yourself as whole as you can, and your own belief systems, and perhaps you were indoctrinated into a certain way of religion when you were younger, and now as you start to evolve spiritually, I mean, I think it's great that you've connected with your dad, who is a good friend of mine, because he is on a spiritual journey just as I am, and he looks at himself a lot. It's the whole spiritual involvement is about, how would I say it? It's about looking at ourselves and how we react to other circumstances, and being centered and connected to source or God, and not being so when something affects us.
Yeah.
I think that's so true because I feel like it's all about going inside yourself. And that's what I'm learning. I used to blame everybody around me before, even, but now I'm like, I look at myself like, okay, well, what am I doing? Why do I feel like that? Or why is that bothering me? Or, you know, certain things. But really quick, um, your name was John, right? John?
Jonathan. Jonathan.
Jonathan. Okay. So I just wanted to ask you a question about, you said when you were little, you heard voices or you seen things that you thought were there, but were told that they weren't there, or
I saw ghosts when I was little, and I had high temperature, and apparently it was the curtains. My mom said it was the curtains, but I saw ghosts in the room. And they say that when we're born and when we die, our spirit guides are with us. And maybe as a little kid, I didn't understand that, and they were just helpers on the other side. But I saw things, I heard voices, yeah, all sorts of stuff, and I didn't understand it.
but they say when you're younger that, or when you're small, you're pure and you're not tainted by this world, so it's easier for you to see things or know things are there. um But I remember when I was growing up, I used to yell for my mom and dad all the time because I was always like, I would always see a shadow in the hallway. But it was weird because I remember my dad, and it used to happen so often that like my dad would come in and turn on the light and no, nothing's there, Brianna. But one time I knew my mom had seen it because she had told me, like, she didn't deny it or anything, and it looked like she was scared. I never asked her about that, and that one time always sticks with me to this day. And I looked it up, like what could it have been. I seen this like black shadow with this black hat. It was like a brim hat. Do you remember that, Dad?
No, I don't. Yeah, yeah.
It was in the hallway, and it was like this tall black shadow with this big brim hat. And but it wasn't like I was scared. I mean, I was scared because I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't like I felt frightened by it. Like it was, I don't know, but so many things like that have happened when I was little. But it's hard because, you're always told, oh, just go back to sleep. That's not real, but there's no explanation of what it could be, or, you know, we don't get the knowledge on that type of stuff growing up.
Yeah.
So then you start to, as you get older, block those things out because you're always told that they're just, they're not real, or that's crazy thinking, you're crazy, or things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I guess we're running close on our time too. I'll make this quick. Um, there is a part of this, like when I first started to kind of wake up, and like back when you had that experience, Brianna, I had no idea how to deal with it. So we just say, oh, just go back to sleep. But then as you start to wake up, you start to realize, um, like I would have these dark shapes in my room. I'd be, like when I lived by myself, I would be in the room in bed and I'd look up in the ceiling and there'd be these moving dark shapes in the room. I remember waking up into a lucid dream and I was awake, but in a different, like a reality really close to this one. And there was a huge black raven on my bed, and it was squawking at me. And I was scrunching my eyes and rubbing my eyes and looking at it. I'm in my room, and I was telling myself, I'm awake, but it feels different. And there's a huge raven on my bed. And then it was there for a while. And then, of course, I like woke up into this reality. And of course, the raven was gone and there was nothing there. But I feel like that was all part of my sort of initiation into accepting the darkness, not only outside of me, but inside of me. And if I hadn't had that experiences like that, I wouldn't be able to do some of the work that I do because I would think, oh, everything's a light and there's no darkness. It's all rainbows. And
Right.
that was all part of the whole. It was almost like the darkness was actually helping me to kind of accept and embrace all that part of my life. So,
And I'd like to add one more thing. I sort of touched on it earlier, Brianna, is I think it's wonderful that you're connected with your dad now, because I know him and he can listen. He has that gift of being able to listen without judgment. And so that can be a really nice support for you, just as you evolve spiritually on your path.
thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
You bet.
I could sit here and talk to you guys for hours.
I know. If I didn't have another thing going on at 11 in 15 minutes, I would be so up for that. Let's do this again.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You bet.
Love
Thanks,
you
Danny.
both.
That's good.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Brianna.